They
and
did.
learned.
I did read some sort of a story about like they had an AI that did something that it wasn't programmed to do, like human brains do naturally, which is
Oh no, the normal thing that you want an AI to do?
Why not? First of all, why are you both afraid and not excited at a possible new life form that would, evolve?
Because we don't have
grow?
the drive to play God that you do, Roger. We're not building strange budding intelligences in our garage like you.
I'd like to say that all three of us are childless for a reason.
All right, fair enough.
We
because
don't need
none of the
another
experiments
version.
have worked out. I definitely tried to build a robot when I was a kid. Never got a brain for it. It's probably still out there.
It's probably your dad.
Searching for a brain that you didn't give it,
Mhm.
like
Father.
an insane Frankenstein.
Give me a brain. Oh boy. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name is Jordan Dahl.
I am Nate Balding.
And I am Roger Norquist. And right now we are joined by a very special guest from the Bad Astra YouTube channel. Astra, say hello to the Pingos.
Hello, Pingos. I'm Astra.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Heck yeah. Today's episode of Werewolf Radar is in fact brought to us by the Monstroco Intrascope. Explore the horrors that lie within you with the Monstroco brand Intrascope. Gaze into it. It will most certainly gaze back. Monstroco. What the fuck? They are our sponsor. And this is honestly one of the less horrifying products we've seen from Monstroco in a while. It's I tried it out. I saw within me, it was just me without a beard and like a necktie on and like a steady job. And it was horrifying. It was horrifying. And I haven't slept for 4 days, but worth the money, honestly.
Worth the
I
money.
mean, it can only be purchased in Monstro coin, so
Monstro coin. So you don't even need to spend real money. I'm getting them once a month down the chimney in a bag full of human skin. Or made of human skin, I should say. Just a bag of Monstro coin.
Just
electric
a horror
currency.
bag in general.
A horror bag. You know those horror bags that you see sometimes? It's one of those.
Yes. Well, gentlemen, I have Astra
Thank God.
here.
How long were you going to let me do that?
A while. I just wanted to
How
see
long were you
going to
let me just tread water?
You're
silently
treading very
looking
well.
at me.
The point is, Astra and I were talking through the emails and through a few meetups that we were hanging out in. And she pitched us an awesome Mad Scientist true crime segment about the Demon Core. And when I heard this and then learned a little bit about it, I went, yes, 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 yes. Please, anyone listening, check out Bad Astra YouTube channel, youtube.com. Search Bad Astra is the best way to find it right now. And also check them out on Patreon, patreon.com/Bad Astra. That's BADASTRA. Astra, take us away.
Hello, and thank you so much for that introduction, Roger. I know that this is a paranormal preparedness podcast, and if you're going to be prepared for the paranormal, I think it's important that you know how to become a ghost. So
I gotta say, this is huge for everyone we know. Becoming the ghost.
Yes, because interacting with ghosts is one thing, but truly becoming a ghost, that is a whole nother level. So I am going to share the story of the Demon Core and how two scientists and possibly a few others, because of the nature of these accidents, we're actually not sure how many scientists were killed. We know at least two.
Okay. How many scientists were brought into being by it, though?
Unfortunately, actually, that depends. A lot of people get into this story and choose to become scientists for that reason.
Look at that.
So too many is the answer.
Never. We need more scientists to throw at the science.
That's true. You can never have too many scientists. The Demon Core, originally named Rufus. I'm not even kidding. The original It was named Demon Core after the accidents, but it was originally called Rufus, was just a spherical ball, like 14 pounds, subcritical mass of plutonium. So it was literally like less than 4 inches across of plutonium. And it was made during World War II by the US in the Manhattan Project.
Okay.
So it was initially going to be used as an atomic warhead to test. But before that, they used it for what are called criticality experiments. Catch up for everybody listening who isn't up on their history or nuclear physics. The Manhattan Project was a secret government science project during World War II, and it is the code name given to the project to make the nuclear bombs. So the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the US government, those were developed in Los Alamos by the Manhattan Project. So if anybody says Manhattan Project, they mean building nuclear.
Hilariously, not in Manhattan at all.
It's almost like they were using code names.
Nor involving Dr. Manhattan. Now, was Rufus? I want it to be an acronym.
I don't think it was an acronym.
Like round, ugly,
underground, furious, underground species.
It was plutonium, so it could like it could have been like round uranium, but it was plutonium.
I know. They blew it. They really blew it.
They really messed up.
Really dropped the ball, if you will. Okay, go ahead.
Literally in a couple cases.
Oh God.
So,
oh no.
The way you make a fission bomb, you get a critical mass of a fissionable material like plutonium or uranium. And with a critical mass, that literally just means enough of the splody thing that it will go splody. So I have a whole video about nuclear physics on my channel if you want to learn more. But basically, if you get enough uranium-235 or enough plutonium in a small space, it will explode. Before that, it won't explode. It'll get close, but what you basically need is a chain reaction. So there are neutrons just zooming around everywhere. But say one collides with an atom that is fissionable. So uranium or plutonium, there are only a few that we see in everyday life. It collides with that atom breaks apart, releasing more neutrons. Those neutrons hit other atoms. Those atoms break apart, more neutrons, more atoms. And these explosions, these tiny atomic explosions, splitting these atoms release energy. And that's how you get a nuclear fission chain reaction. But if you don't have enough fissionable material together, you split one atom and great, no other atoms get split because there's nothing nearby, right? It really matters. The concentration of the material really matters. So for weapons grade uranium-235, it's basically like 95+% 235 uranium all in a tight space. For nuclear reactors, if you just want the energy, it's maybe 5 to 10%.
Okay.
So you're never going to get a nuclear explosion at a nuclear power plant because it's just not dense enough. The worst it could do is melt down.
Okay.
So you're saying SimCity lied to us. You're not going to get an explosion like SimCity, where it's just up in flames, a nuclear explosion, and
you wouldn't get a nuclear explosion. However, you could get what's called a steam explosion. Because all of the rods are in water, you could create enough heat that all of the water evaporates immediately, boils, becomes steam, and that blows the thing up. But
so
that
you're saying
is
this Demon Core or Rufus right now was pretty dangerous in general.
Rufus,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Back to Rufus. Rufus was very dangerous. So Rufus was not enough critical mass on his own to go splody.
All his life, they were telling Rufus he wasn't enough.
But remember,
You
The
gotta develop
reason-
that density, kid.
yeah, but remember, the way you get a chain reaction is if you have enough neutrons
Yes.
bouncing around.
Certainly.
So, how do you make a subcritical mass go critical? That's what they were trying to figure out.
Sure.
They knew that what you do is you put neutron reflectors.
Okay.
So those are basically mirrors for neutrons. Remember, the atom splits, releases a couple neutrons into the wild.
Sure.
Most of them go off into space, but a few of them hit atoms. Most of them go off into space. A few of them hit atoms. But what if none of them were able to go off into space and they all kept bouncing on mirrors to hit other atoms?
Okay.
You would need a lot less mass to go splody.
Man, science, you did it again.
So they wanted exact numbers because plutonium and uranium-235, those are hard to get your hands on.
Now, now I have a trunk full of uranium-234. Will that do?
No, it will not. Uranium, that will not go splody.
Damn it.
In fact, uranium mostly exists as uranium-238. Only a tiny fraction of natural uranium is uranium-235. So
238. That fools uranium, they call it.
yeah, uranium-238, it doesn't go splody.
What does it even do? What do you even do, uranium-238?
It decays into plutonium, which is actually like
Allegedly.
You can save a lot of money and time and effort if you can make less mass still go splody.
Okay.
So they were doing it with mirrors.
Mirrors.
Yes. And remember, we are in 1945. We're trying to make a thing go splody, but we're also trying not to kill people.
Sure. Well, but also trying to specifically kill a lot of people.
We're trying to kill a lot of the not us people.
The non-science people working on the God bomb.
No,
Got it.
we're trying to create more scientists. That's what we learned from Blue.
Inadvertently, yes.
Okay. The first experiment that I'm going to talk about that went very wrong. They did a lot of experiments that didn't go as wrong, but let's talk about the first experiment that made a scientist ghost.
Okay.
Harry Doglin is a 24-year-old physicist. His job is to conduct this experiment where they put the core in a little box that they are constructing. So they're getting neutron reflectors and they're building them like bricks in a house around the core. So they're seeing basically how high they can get this wall before it gets close to critical. And they're monitoring everything.
Sure.
Basically being like, okay, how much reflector do we actually need? Harry is building brick by brick. Then, poor Harry, he drops.
Are you going to say this goes bad for Harry Doglin?
It goes very bad for Harry Doglin.
Harry, get out of there.
And also, not to jump in. So we will have new Doglin jersey merch very soon. He's on the neutron reflecting team.
Harry Doglin is 24-year-old physicist. He's working alone with a security guard, Private Robert Hemmerly, who's 29.
Oh, Hemmerly!
Yeah, I was overly.
In my mind, I need
Hemmerly's the
know.
much funnier name.
In my mind, I've already cast Hemmerly as like a real kind of Gomer Pyle. Like, I'm gonna take my lunch break now, Sarge. Y'all doing science in here? Kind of guy.
Hemmerly is at a desk like 10 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
Harry is building brick by brick, Lincoln log style, this house.
The explosion cage.
Yes, the explosion cage. That is a perfect name for it.
Harry, you gotta get out of there.
Then, while attempting to stack another brick around the assembly,
No.
Harry drops the brick
Harry, no!
onto the core.
The demon core, Rufus.
So the core goes well
Wow.
into supercriticality, because what you have basically said is, oh, we're slowly reducing the numbers of neutrons that can escape.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now no neutrons can
Yeah.
escape.
Ooh, scary.
So that did not go well.
Yeah.
Science.
Yes. Scary's a fun word for it.
Science claims another one.
So
Maniacs.
Harry's situation was getting scary. The core went well into supercriticality and a self-sustaining critical chain reaction. So then Harry reaches in and moves the brick off the assembly.
No, don't touch it.
Yeah, he reaches in and touches the bad thing. The irradiating thing.
Yeah.
Now, he probably saved a bunch of people by doing that.
Yeah.
Someone had to do it. It was a Captain Kirk
Someone
in Star
had to
Trek
do
2
it.
moment.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he received a fatal dose of radiation, and he became a ghost 25 days later as a result of
bummer.
acute
Yes.
radiation poisoning.
Oh, that's the worst. It was a long and lingering.
And then the U.S.
Sludgification.
government
Wow.
learned its lesson.
Well,
Totally. Remember, there were 2 incidents.
Wait, what happened to Hammersley?
Hemmerly
Hemmerly.
Hemmerly survived for 33 more years, and he died of leukemia at the age of 62.
Okay,
So
well,
remember when I said that
Bummer.
we're not actually sure how many scientists the demon core killed? Hemmerly is one of those scientists we're not
Fair.
sure about, because
Fair.
radiation poisoning, if it's not acute, what it does is it's kind of a slow random killer.
Yeah, sure.
It dramatically increases your risk for cancer. But
Yeah.
Okay.
sometimes 62-year-olds just get cancer.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Now-
whether Hemmerly got this cancer or was more likely to get the cancer earlier
Mhm.
because of this incident, or whether he was 62 and just got cancer,
Right.
we don't know.
Now, was Hemmerly, a scientist or a security guy?
He was just a private. He was just a security guard.
Okay,
He was
okay.
29.
So my theory of Hemmerly being kind of a Gomer still stands. Like maybe Hemmerly got leukemia many years later for dropped his sandwich in the reactor and was like, "Whoops, I'll get it," and nobody saw.
They
still
kept
ate
putting
it.
him on the schedule.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. No shade. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this, Hemmerly.
Hey, look, he got
Unfortunately-
to see the beginning of Vietnam. That's what
I-
every soldier at that time
You got
wanted.
to see He got to see Rufus up close. Rufus live in concert.
After this, the demon core is still called Rufus. It hasn't gotten the name demon core yet.
Oh, okay. So it's still
And-
Rufus.
Unfortunately, scientists, some of them were like, okay, we should probably be more careful.
We need to put an end to Rufus.
No one wanted to put an end to Rufus.
Sure.
The scientists still wanted to poke
They
the bear
still-
with a stick.
Yeah, of course.
And so,
They just wanted to modify the stick a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
stick is better than brick.
So,
That old science adage.
so they realized that building brick by brick around the core, that's not super safe. Because you
Okay.
could drop a brick. That'd be bad.
Right. For instance,
So
take
it's-
my friend.
So instead, they made a new thing where they basically, those clamshell containers of fruit you get at the supermarket?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, imagine if there was a clamshell, but that was the neutron reflectors, and inside, what was the plutonium? Rufus.
Okay, I kind of like that. That
This
seems
this
So-
makes more
seems
sense.
extremely safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So they
that's safe.
basically had a little bowl that Rufus sits in, the bottom of the clamshell that is all neutron reflectors, and then they would lower the top, the top of the clamshell, down onto Rufus using their hands. There was a thumb hole for the hand to lower it down.
Oh.
And
In the
you
book,
could
like a
probably
bowling
see where this
Thumb
is
hole
going.
gets you every time.
And here's the thing, what happens if you drop it? And they thought about that. They thought about what happens if you drop it, just like the previous guy, poor Harry, dropped the brick. So they said, okay, we're not going to let it go critical because we're going to put 2 shims on the bottom half of the clamshell. So even if you drop it, it still won't completely close, right? Yeah, but see, shims, those are for losers who care about OSHA. This is war. And a manly man, specifically a manly man like Lewis Slaughton, he doesn't need rules or OSHA.
Sorry, Lewis Slaughton is the name of the man now?
Yeah, Lewis Slaughton.
That's going to blow up?
He's not good. Well, yes, he's not going to blow up, but he is going to become a ghost later in the story.
Okay.
Lewis Slaughton, he is kind of known for a bit of bravado. Like he wears jeans and cowboy boots for these experiments, and he's known to
Cool.
show off a little bit.
That's fun.
So he doesn't like the shims. He likes to hold the core open with a screwdriver that he holds in his other hand. So he's lowering
Classic
the neutron
Slaughton.
reflector and making sure to hold it open with a
Yeah.
screwdriver.
Classic dad move.
Oh, yeah. So safe. Very safe. What could possibly go wrong? This was seen as maybe a bad choice. Enrico Fermi, who's a famous physicist, reportedly told Slaughton and others that they would, quote, be dead within a year if they continued performing the test in that manner. Enrico Fermi, pro OSHA, and also in this case, very right.
Proscia.
And Richard Feynman, people might know of the Feynman lectures. He's also a famous physicist.
Okay.
Compared these experiments to tickling the tail of a sleeping dragon. So scientists started calling this experiment tickling the dragon's tail.
Hey, you want to hang out later? Tickle the dragon's tail?
Which, of course, Slaughton loved because it made him
Sure.
seem like a big manly man who tickled the dragon's tail
Yeah.
with his bare hands. Let me paint a picture. So Lewis Slaughton and 7 other personnel are in there conducting an experiment to verify how close you can get the core to criticality by, like, with various positionings of the
Sure.
neutron reflector. And Slaughton is actually on his way out. He's leaving Los Alamos, so he's showing this experiment to Alvin G. Graves, who is going to be like, he's basically going to do the experiments when Slaughton leaves.
Okay.
So the point of this demonstration is to show Graves how to properly do the experiment.
Right.
And you'd think,
Here's your cowboy hat and your boots.
Slaughton, knowing that all eyes are on him, he'd probably follow the stated procedure because this is what's going to be used later.
Sure.
No, of course not.
This is
No.
the one time that America used a motorcycle to start a nuclear weapon.
You've got the bottom half sphere of beryllium. That's your neutron mirror
Sure.
around the core. And you're manually lowering. So with your hand on it, with your thumb in the thumb hole, the top half over it. Now, the reflectors are basically being lowered.
The way one would take a
raised.
bowling ball off of a shelf.
Sure.
yes.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty much. And
bowling
you
ball
have
shelf.
detectors measuring the relative activity of the core.
Yes.
And the most important thing, remember, is that the person running the experiment, Slaughton, has to maintain at least a slight separation between the halves so it doesn't go critical and irradiate everyone.
Sure.
And remember, the standard protocol is to use shims between the halves, which are permanent and stay there in case you drop it. But remember, Slotin doesn't use the shims. He was using the blade of a standard flat tip screwdriver manipulated in his other hand. He's performed this test on almost a dozen occasions. On the day of the accident, with 7 people watching, Slotin's screwdriver slips and the reactor closes completely.
No, Slotin, you gotta get out of there.
He's fucking insane.
Yeah, he drops it down, loses the screwdriver, just like the guy who dropped a brick, except there were regulations that he just wasn't following. Instantly, there was a flash of blue light and a heat wave across Slotin's skin. Slotin has reported that he felt a sour taste in his mouth. He quickly twisted his wrist as his hand is burning, flipping the top shell off the core. Once he removed the top half, seconds later, the criticality is stopped. So Slotin's quick thinking prevented a recurrence and ended the accident. So Slotin likely saved a lot of people's lives by taking it off. He could have saved more lives by, not putting it on, but and the positioning of Slotin's body over the whole thing, over Rufus, also managed to shield others from the neutron radiation because Slotin absorbed it all.
Oh, wow.
He received a lethal dose of
course he did.
Both neutron and gamma radiation in under a second, and he died 9 days later from acute radiation poisoning.
Yowza.
And that's how we got the Hulk.
What?
Yeah. So Graves.
9 days. That's a bad one.
Yeah.
Pow.
So Graves, the guy who was learning the experiment, was watching over his shoulder at the time and was partially shielded by him. So he did receive enough to make enough radiation to make him sick. Graves was hospitalized for several weeks. He didn't die until 20 years later at age 55. This is another one of those, we're not sure whether he became a ghost because of the demon car.
Sure.
He died of a heart attack, which is the probability of getting a heart attack or cancer, that's dramatically increased by radiation poisoning. However, Graves's father also died of a heart attack. So whether or not it was genetic, whether or not the heart attack came sooner, we're not sure whether the demon form made him a ghost. Yeah. Radiation is one of those weird things because estimating who died of radiation and who just kind of died is only something you can do on a population-wide scale.
Sure.
Of this many people probably would have died, this many people did, because it's so random. And there are people who received almost lethal doses and then lived 30 years. There are people who received almost lethal doses and were dead within a year. It is very much a roll of the dice.
Yes, the only thing that will be for sure is when the ghost haunt our dreams and tell us how they died.
Yes.
I was one of the ones in the glasses at Trinity.
Yeah.
Real problem.
Yeah. So after both of these incidents, Rufus was renamed the Demon Car.
Yeah, now we're talking.
It was supposed to be used in several nuclear tests. After the second accident, they needed to wait for its radioactivity to decline. Basically, it wasn't super critical anymore, but it was still radioactive enough that if you're around it too long, you will get cancer and die.
Sure.
Yeah.
This guy got a lethal amount within a second.
Yeah, scary.
radiation also, like poisoning, also builds up. So if you're working around it, even if you don't mess up, if it's too radioactive, you can get lethal dose over the course of even a year.
Right.
So
Thanks.
there's actually a self-sustaining nuclear reaction in the basement of a lab at the university where my wife works. She was a TA for a lab where undergrads actually had to go and see the experiment. It was really cool. It is encased in radiation shielding, and you could basically sit on it for an hour.
Don't do that.
Oh, you shouldn't do it. However, don't do it, but it is shielded enough
Sure.
that if you sat on it for an hour, I think you could do that every day and still not like get yourself killed, probably.
We're so motivated.
I love how science has
so
those
it's really
limits.
only as harmful as like watching Succession.
Yes. Funny.
Wow, that's really incredible.
Funny story about this. This was pre-COVID, so I think procedures have likely changed. But, and I'm not going to tell you what university my wife works for because I don't want anybody getting any ideas.
Yeah,
But-
Well, it's the one that has the sittable nuclear
Yeah.
explosion.
But this
radioactive.
self-sustaining nuclear reaction
Uh-huh.
of plutonium was not that big because you don't actually need that much plutonium to make a nuclear reaction. Like you could wheel it out on a cart. The door to the room and the door to the building were both generally unlocked, and it would not have been difficult for someone who looked like a student or a grad student, as my wife was, to go down, bring a cart, put the self-sustaining nuclear reaction on a cart, put it under a sheet, and wheel it out into the unknown with enough plutonium to make a dirty bomb.
Well, but then you wouldn't be able to sit on it in the comfort of the college environment.
Oh, of course. And no one outside of the department knew it was there. And they have since dramatically upgraded security, mainly because of COVID. They just don't want people going into the buildings and getting each other sick.
Naturally.
I don't think the idea of someone stealing a good amount of plutonium even entered.
That was never a problem.
That was never an issue.
Truly.
I think their thought was no one in the university both would know how to make a dirty bomb out of plutonium and would be stupid enough to try. But as we've learned, a lot of scientists are in fact both.
Yeah, right.
Stupid enough to make something go supercritical and stupid enough to try it out. So
and as a paranormal podcast, we do have access to Ouija boards. We could see these scientists happen to help us make these dirty bombs. Pingos, I'm not saying do it.
But it's something
Definitely don't.
you can do.
In fact, I'm working on a bomb that is a savory bomb. It's the same thing, but with Knorr stock cubes, and I want to make several city blocks delicious. If
What you're talking
possible.
about is soup. You want to make soup.
Yes, I want to make soup for lots of people at once. I don't want to hurt anyone. Just soup.
Yeah. So anyway, the end of the Demon Core, it had to wait for its chance to be tested as part of a nuclear warhead.
Biding its time. you
Yeah,
could
biding
say.
its time. It was going to be the third in a series of tests. The first two were Abel and Baker. It was going to be part of Charlie. A, B, and C. They're really good at
Sure.
naming things.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the Charlie test was canceled due to unexpected radioactivity after the Baker test. They could not decontaminate the target warships. So they
mind blowing to me that they were not expecting radioactivity.
a lot of things about the Manhattan Project are mind blowing to me. the crazy thing is that even after the nuclear bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
Mhm.
nuclear
Oh, they thought all those
tests-
people lived, right?
nuclear tests continued to just, it was very much the Wild West. People did not know what they were dealing with. Remember, we had radium watches for a while. Like
Sure.
there's that whole story about like women literally painting radium watches with radium paint, licking
Mhm.
the paint brushes to get a finer tip at and that was training. Like,
Yeah, jeez.
oh yeah, so many people got cancer and died in this period. It was really bad.
I remember an episode of I Love Lucy where she goes hunting for uranium. It was like it was supposed to be like the next gold rush. She had like Geiger counters and we're like, come on, Rick. We'll find
But
radioactive materials.
But yes, after the Charlie test was canceled,
Mhm.
the demon core was melted down and the material was recycled for use in other cores. So the demon core is no more.
Wow, the
And
demon
we
core.
will never know how many of the scientists involved, maximum 9. We will never know how many, minimum 2, maximum 9. We will
Good
not
range.
know how many of them were made ghosts because of the demon core.
Sure.
I was reading how they all died. Some of them lived like a very long time and clearly died of natural causes. Like one died at 88, 52 years later. One died, and Wikipedia says probably died in June 1988. So like
but he still kept walking and through.
Yeah. A Rasputin of a scientist, if you will.
So he probably died. One of the people there, Private Patrick Joseph Cleary, he died 4 years later, but he was killed in action in the Korean War. However, a bunch of them, like several did die from heart issues. Like multiple died from leukemia or heart attacks.
Sure.
Which is like not that's just above what you'd expect as a distribution. But again,
Right.
it's such a small
happens.
sample size. We don't know. Like
I'm looking at pictures of the demon core and
it looks like a bowling ball, doesn't it?
it looks like a strange bowling ball.
Does
and
it
we'll link
look?
these on the
It
Discord.
literally looks like a fucking bowling ball.
It does.
I
It
was
looks. It
not
looks, it's
expecting
very
that to be a real
smooth. I
thing.
know. You're kind of
thought it was a
expecting
fun
it to
joke.
be, yeah, kind of a horrifying lump of something, but it's a very perfectly spherical metal object and weird prevalence of anime depictions of it. Hot anime girls opening and closing the clamshell. There's a lot of accidents happening.
Oh, there's
Seems
a bunch
to be
of
one of those-
hentai about an
seems
opening
to
and
be one of-
closing of a
No,
clamshell.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say, strangely, all business.
All right.
But one of those weird corners of the internet where
Yeah.
those two things seem to overlap.
I did not know that. I'm only not surprised because I have spent more
Yeah,
than 10 seconds on the internet.
sure.
That's the general
exactly.
feeling most people get after listening to
Yeah.
our show. I didn't
To
believe
be
that.
fair, yeah. I think we've all accidentally Googled ourselves into an algorithm that should not be seen.
This is true. This is true. Well, thank you
But
so
let's
much,
wrap
Astra.
up,
Is there
yeah.
anything else that we need to know about the demon core or possibly?
That's the story of the demon core.
Wow.
Where can
wow.
people find you once again?
People, if you would like to learn more about science through just wacky costumes, jokes, and storytelling, you can find me on YouTube. My channel is Bad Astra, BAD space ASTRA. And I do a lot of physics. I have a whole video on nuclear physics and why nuclear energy is good, actually. It's a great transition fuel. I also have other socially conscious things, like a video all about how vaccines work, specifically mRNA vaccines, a video about bias in science. I also have like interviews with current scientists. If you want to learn about several other mad scientists who are alive and well, I have interviewed many of them. And we have short explainers too. Everything from the history of the universe as a homebrew D&D game to the
Love
physics of Simone Biles's floor routine.
Hell yeah.
I got obsessed with her for like 2 months.
Who didn't?
Hell yeah. That's incredible. Definitely go check out all of that stuff. And Astra, I know you have a heart out, so you're welcome to punch out whenever you need to, but we will we will continue on with the rest of the show, right, Raj?
I mean, we can wrap it up. We did a 50-minute episode.
Oh, you want to wrap it up?
That's the length.
Okay, then cut out all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that does it for another episode of Werewolf Radar. Thank you so much to all of the Pingos joining us out there, and all of thank you so much for all of the repeat Pingos coming back and the new Pingos just joining us. Thank you very much to Carrie and Soldier and Phil for kicking it in the Zoom room. If you too would like to get in on these hangouts, go hit us up on Patreon. You can become a Patreon subscriber. You get some cool art, you get some cool freaking content weekly, and you'll get to come and watch me try to silently eat a sandwich through the first couple of content pieces that we record each week.
If you do it in
was a
December,
sandwich.
if you do it in December, we're also passing out a Jiggle for Bigfoot sticker.
Jiggle
tier
for
and above.
Bigfoot. Ambassador tier. Where did you get that t-shirt? I'm an ambassador. Shout out to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song, and shout out to you, the darn listener, who's given us Adam P showing up in the chat at the last minute. You, the darn listener, for going to iTunes and giving us a 5-star review, please. Anything less than a 5-star review, and iTunes comes for us. They come for us.
They hurt us.
They take a fingernail in the night. Usually you don't feel it, but you do when you wake up. Anyway, until next week, as always, I always want to say super secret. We got to come up with something.
It's
our
normal,
perfectly public sign-off line for all listeners of the radar.
Perfectly public does make it sound like we're hiding something very specifically.
Or it's on the wall of a bus station somewhere. Astra, what's going to happen is we're going to say punch the sky, Spaceman Joe, on the count of 3. Okay, is everybody ready for that? Punch the sky, Spaceman Joe. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky,
Spaceman Joe.